So we're going to be discussing the 1 Minute Manager book by Kim Blanchard and Spencer Johnson. And in this book there's 3 parts, so we are going to go over what the 1 minute goal setting is about. What do you think 1 minute goal setting is, or where could it be applied?
Well, for example, I think that 1 minute goals can be used for homework. I think setting a goal for your homework is a very good strategy. And then secondly, when we do tests, as well as when tutors are doing lessons, I think it's important that maybe in that lesson period of time with an example that you're doing, the student, we can set a goal and say that you have this amount of time or you need to get this mark when you're doing this question.
Yes.
And that's definitely where I think we can apply it, as well as in our personal lives.
Yes, exactly. So 1 minute goals are really important in all aspects of our life. There are steps to 1 minute goal setting.
So can you just explain each of these steps?
Yeah. So the first step is you have to agree on your goals. That's really just whoever's involved, whether it be the tutor and the student, or the student and the parent, or all 3.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone needs to agree that the goal is suitable. You cannot have a goal that is going to harm someone else or do bad in someone else's life. It kind of needs to be agreed on by everyone.
And should the tutor set the goal, or should the student be setting the goal?
It's really important to have the student set the goal, because if the tutor or teacher or parent sets the goal for the student, it's not coming from themselves. So it may seem like they're being forced to do something that they don't necessarily want to. Whereas if they're setting their own goal and you've agreed on that goal with them, they feel motivated to achieve because they set it out for themselves.
Okay, that's great.
That leads us to number 2 though. As much as the students should set their own goals, it's important to recognize what good behavior is. So you need to still guide them as to what the goal should be based on, or in what framework the goal should be set. You can't let them just set a goal about something random. It needs to obviously be based on whatever you're working on or what they want to achieve.
So basically you're saying that we must set an expectation.
Yes.
Before the lesson. All right.
An expectation, but in a broad sense. So not you have to achieve 70%. It's more you have to do a little bit better than you did last time, or what do you want to achieve with these marks? These are the marks you would need.
That's
you
perfect.
Understand.
Yes, I do. Thank you.
The third step is it's really important for the student to write down their goal. And this should happen on a single page and in 250 words or less.
Okay.
In saying this, that goal that's been written down on a single page, it needs to be shared with everyone involved. So if they're setting a goal for your lesson, you and the student should have a copy of the goal.
Okay.
If it's a goal for an exam that the parents want them to also do well in, then the parents, the student, and you should all have a copy of that goal. So everyone is aware of what's happening.
And I'm assuming keeps the student accountable for.
Exactly. So if they're firstly setting their own goal and they're writing it down, they can't ever say, no, I didn't say that. It's been written down, it's there, it's on paper, and it is something that they'll continuously go over, which is step 4. They have to read and reread their goals. It kind of goes in step 5 as well, which says it should be read every day or every second day or quite often, so they're constantly reminded of what they want for themselves.
All right. Where do you think they should put this goal? So that, because I feel like all of us have a tendency to forget to do simple things in a day. And I think maybe not reading a goal is not that important on their to-do list in a day. So where do you think they should be putting these goals?
Personally, I think that if it's a personal goal or a goal about them as a person, maybe as their attitude, their behavior, whatever, I would put it on a wall in a room where they would always see it. Whereas if it's for a specific subject, let's take maths for example, it's a goal of what they want to achieve in that subject, I would make a copy and put it in the front of my maths book or slide it into my maths book where I last worked. So every time I go and do maths, I see my goal there. I read it there. I think that would be very effective, because to stick something on a wall as well, you'll get to a point where you just pretend it's not there.
Okay.
So it has to be in places where it kind of forces you, what is this? Let me read this again.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Then the last step is step 6. It's really important that a student, when they've reread their goals, to determine, is their behavior matching what their goal says? So if their goal is, I want 80% for the subject, but they haven't done any of the homework, they've been warned from the teacher, any negative comments about it, are they really acting in their best interest or in line with their goal?
All right.
So that's also why they have to keep reading and rereading it, to remember what they said or remind themselves.
Okay.
Even if someone sets their own goal, you do forget what you said. It's natural. So having it written down reminds you, this was the frame of mind I was in on this day. Let me stay with this.
And I think to even add on to that, maybe when they have the goals, like you say their behavior is not matching.
Yeah.
What can you reiterate? It's
So,
the behavior.
If their behavior is not matching their goal,
right,
then they need to reread it to remember, okay, this is what I wanted.
Okay.
Why did I want this?
And like even like saying trying to achieve 80%, that means you need to put in a lot more work and not just one day worth of work in a week, you know.
Exactly.
It's not going to actually add up. And maybe we can stick it on the fridge.
Yes.
Everyone goes to the fridge. I mean, how many times we need to eat in a day? And then once sticking it on the fridge, I think it would be a good family area, because then your family also sees, hey, this is my goal.
Yeah.
That's another
goal. I think the most important thing is it has to be in a place where you do look often. So don't go put it in a drawer or stick it on your mirror if you never look in your mirror, for example. And everyone has to be aware of your goal, so that if you're having a day where you feel like, I cannot achieve my goal, there are people around you who know what your goal is, and they can kind of push you in that direction in a constructive way.
Right. That makes sense.
Yeah. This could be used in practical examples.
Okay.
So a practical example is if I, as a tutor, say to you, Jacky, I looked at your test that you did in our last lesson, and it seemed like you really rushed this test. Why is this?
And I probably, as your student, would mention that I didn't understand the topic, or I felt pressured for the time that we were doing the test. And sometimes I'm not even aware of the time, because I don't know how long I should take on each question. I'm just trying to do the questions.
Exactly. So there you've recognized what your behavior or what your actions have, what they are. So what we do now is we decide, what is your goal to combat this?
Okay.
So what would your goal be in this situation?
So I would go ahead and use the steps that you actually provided for me, especially writing down the goal. I find that's very effective.
Yeah.
So I'll take a piece of paper out, I'll start writing down my goal. And in my goal, I would include that I need to complete this test in this amount of time. If it's 40 minutes, I will complete the test in 40 minutes. And on top of that, I would say which sections I didn't understand and how I'm going to work on that. And that I would include in my 1 minute goal.
You see, so exactly, even in that, if you set out a goal and you don't achieve everything, I feel like it's important to notice or recognize why you think you couldn't, in this example, finish on time. And maybe it could be another reason. It could be, for example, there's a tutor that hasn't taught you that section accurately, and it confused you in the test and made you waste a bit more time.
Right.
That's why it's also important to have everyone kind of on the same page. The goal has to be shared with everyone. Everyone knows what you want, what we want for you. We've agreed on this goal. So it doesn't lie just with you as a person.
Yes.
It lies with everyone that has agreed on the goal. You
Alright.
can't agree on a goal if you don't want the same thing for the student.
So in summary, you're saying it's definitely a team effort when it comes down to this.
Yes,
right.
That is what I do think. So yeah, I just feel like setting the goals is definitely, from a tutor's perspective, it puts everyone on the same page.
Okay.
So you can't say, like I said earlier, you can't say I didn't say that, or that's not what I wanted. Your goal needs to be specific on this page, and everyone has this page, they know what it is, you can refer back to it, and I think that is a great way to get ahead or get what you want eventually with the help of those around you.
And how do you think it's going to apply to a tutor? Like, if I was a tutor now, how do you think this book and this goal in specifically is going to apply to me as a tutor?
Well, setting a goal, the student setting a goal, and by all means, the tutor can set a goal for themselves or for their student as well, but the main purpose is for the student to set their own goals, so they know what they want. It seems like it's coming from them. It's not being told, this is what you need to do. But it recognizes the strengths and the weaknesses of the student and the tutor. Like I said, with the running out of time, it could be the tutor who maybe misled you with a certain topic on work, and now, how do I explain this? So I could have misled you on a certain topic of work, so now you're in the test and you feel like, oh my gosh, but this is what they explained and I don't understand in this format, and now you're wasting time. So in a way, I as a tutor could have contributed to that. It's not making it my fault, it's not making it your fault, but it's making us aware of, okay, this is the goal, this is where the issue comes in, this is how we can fix it. So having a goal on paper, it shows you there will be weaknesses when it comes to achieving that goal. There'll be times when that goal is not attainable immediately. You have to go a different route. And writing it down just shows us this is how we thought we would do it, but this came up, so let's try it this way. You're just kind of constantly adapting your goals as well.
Yeah, and I'm also assuming that it's literally you'll be on the same page.
Exactly.
As student and tutor.
Yeah, so like I said, everyone knows what we want. We know what the end goal is. It's on paper. If anyone's confused, you go read the goal. That's why everyone needs to have a copy of this.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
We're done.
Okay. We're going to be discussing the 1 Minute Manager by Ken Blanchard and Spencer Johnson. We're specifically going to be looking at 1 minute reprimands, how to deal with students when they do something wrong, and how we approach that situation.
Firstly, it's important to remember when you reprimand someone, you have to do it immediately after they do something wrong. Secondly, it's important to know that when you reprimand them, be specific about what they did wrong. Thirdly, explain to them how you feel about what they did. Afterwards, stop and make them feel the feelings you feel. Let that sink in. Next, show them that you're on their side and that you value them. Remind them. And then lastly, when you've done your reprimand, it's over and you can move on.
I think it's also important to remember that when you reprimand, you need to have set the expectations before you started with them. So have all your expectations laid out and lay out the consequences. Make them aware of, that if you don't do this, this is going to happen. Be specific with where it goes, Okay, so an example of this is when a student doesn't do their homework, you first need to set out the rules. If you don't do your homework, this is going to happen, and follow through. Be consistent with it. Don't tell them that something's going to happen and then you don't follow through, because then they're not going to take you seriously. So, for example, the common one that we get is, I didn't have enough time, I was busy, I had other schoolwork, or I was busy with sports. Those are generally what we face. Those are the excuses that come out, and they tell you in your lesson, first thing you need to do is okay, we need to talk about this. Set them up this is now going to be a discussion about discipline. And starting from there, you move on to the next steps. So you specify, okay, you haven't done your homework. What do you think should happen? Let them set their own kind of consequences, because they respond better than if someone tells them, this is going to happen, you need to follow through. If they come up with their own consequences, they can then take responsibility. It's a way for them to take accountability.
An example, when you explain how you feel, you can say, Lee, I feel like you disrespected my time by not doing your homework. We cannot move on with our lesson now. And after you've done that, just to stop and see what's their reaction. Do they take responsibility for what they did? You can then show them that you value them, that you're on their side. Let's say, for instance, you really enjoy lessons with the student and you think they're very intelligent. Tell them that, but tell them that they need to work hard and that you value them.
Yeah, I think it's also you set it out that you have expectations of them. When you showing them that you value them, say I expect more from you because I know you can do better. Set them up so that they kind of feel disappointed in themselves. And just going back as well, if you lay out and you tell them you're messing around with my time as well, let them know that this doesn't just affect them. You've got a lesson plan, you've got stuff that you need to do as well with them. And if they don't follow that, it affects the lesson plan as well. It doesn't just affect them as an individual, it affects you and your time as well.
And after you've reprimanded them, forget about it. Don't expect that type of behavior by them again, because then it's not over and you haven't moved on yet.
Yeah, I think and don't bring it up every time, oh, remember that time you didn't do your homework kind of thing. I think it's important to kind of move on. Once it's done, okay, and tell them, okay, we're done. And make it clear, that the reprimand is now over and you can move on and then start your lesson. It doesn't have to be a whole, long-winded thing.
It's a 1 minute reprimand.
Yeah, exactly. It's 1 minute. It takes 1 minute and then it's done.
And the last half is by telling them the positive, that you value them.
Exactly, yeah. Always end on a positive note.
Cool. Okay. So the next part of 1 Minute Manager is 1 minute praisings. So what do you think 1 minute praisings are?
For me, 1 minute praising is, it's homework. So making sure that you praise a student when they complete their homework. Another thing is when they are even on time for a lesson. I know many of us may struggle that a student's not on time for a lesson. So when they are, show them that, well done, I'm really happy that you're on time for this lesson. And that encourages them to perform again and do the same thing. And another thing is saying well done for their test results. You know, I think tests is a really big thing for students, even exams. And if they know that you're on their side and you're giving them the praise that they need, then that already is a step in the right direction.
Yeah, exactly. So praising is basically when they've done something well, let them know that they've done well, and it does encourage them. With one-word praising, there's steps. Firstly, you need to, before you even start, you need to be upfront and let them know that when they do something well, you are going to let them know, but also what you expect from them. So say be on time. You do expect them to be on time, and when they are, praise them for it. It's really important to do that. You also need to praise them immediately. So again, they're on time for lesson. Don't at the end of the lesson say, thank you for being on time today. It's not as effective as when the lesson starts to say, wow, we're on time, well done. Like, that's really great. Or with a test, as soon as they tell you their mark, praise them there and then. Don't wait till you see them in the lesson.
And what words would you use? Sorry. My voice got
It works with.
like, such as, would you say, wow, congratulations, things along those lines. You also don't want to keep using the same words over and over again. I guess it loses its impact after a while.
Exactly. So the student does need to feel like you actually praising them and not just saying it because it's natural to say it. So try and not be creative with your words, but be aware of what you're saying and really praise them. Don't just say the words, really praise them, because we are essentially proud of them achieving what they need to achieve. The next thing is you need to be really specific about what they've done right. So don't just say, oh, you did well in your test. Rather, if they have the test, say, wow, you really did this section well, or I can see you've applied this. Be specific about what you are proud of.
Okay.
Then again, you need to tell them how it makes you feel. So don't say, oh, you did well in your test. Say, you did well in your test. It makes me feel really good. It makes me feel like our lessons were beneficial. Something along those lines. And then stop and let them process what you've said. Let them take a little bit of the glory that you've given them.
Okay. And I'm assuming when you like praising them for those certain tests, even if they didn't do well at tests, you're going to go look for things that they did better in. And I guess that kind of boils down to you knowing your student really well enough to notice that they, even if it's a small improvement, you should point it out to them.
Yes,
that, you know what, this is great.
Yes, it is.
Your hard work is paying off.
It's important to praise even little things because it will essentially encourage them to want to do better, because people feed off that good feeling you give them, so they would want to have it more. And if you start with the little things, eventually become bigger things.
Exactly.
The sixth step is you need to encourage them to want to do more. So this goes hand in hand with what I just said. As much as you say, oh, you did well in this, or you're on time, it'd be so nice if you could keep doing this. That's you encouraging them, but naturally, if you're praising them in the right way, a student will take it upon themselves and want to do it more, or want to have a similar behavior or adopt it in other spectrums of their life.
So it becomes self-praise, actually. Then you don't even have to keep praising them. They're going to start doing it for themselves,
yes,
which is
exactly.
really amazing.
That's what we also try to encourage. So in the beginning of your relationship with the student, it's important to have little praises, which will eventually lead up to them wanting to feel good, so they start praising themselves. It's not going to be effective if every single lesson you're praising the student on something. You cannot do that because they'll come to the lesson expect to be praised on something even if they haven't really done it. You need to praise them only where it's due and not all the time, because they need to learn, okay, I can do this, I'm proud of myself. They don't need to rely on someone else always being proud of them. It's important that they are proud of themselves as well.
And would you suggest, so when you're beginning with a student, would you frequently praise them in the beginning of your few lessons? Maybe the first 5-6 lessons, and afterwards kind of like dumb it down a little bit, but still praise them, just like you say, when it's due.
Yeah, definitely, because in the beginning you want to get them into that habit of, I believe in you, or you're doing well. You need to build up their confidence first, and only once you build it up can they start seeing it in themselves. Before then, you need to keep praising until you can see that they are strong enough to start praising themselves. And then you don't take it away completely, but only when it's really a significant change or improvement in something, then you make it known.
Alright, that's perfect.
The last thing is, the book suggests that you use some sort of physical gesture, but in today's world you cannot always physically use a gesture because it can come across in the wrong way. So what I suggest is kind of opening your body to them. So when you speak to them, use open hands, or change your tone of voice, or lean forward to them. just be more accepting. So you don't want to close yourself off, but be praising them because it gives mixed signals.
Yes.
You want to seem open and really show that you're really proud of them. You can do this through body language and tone of voice, or just your attitude in general.
I'm assuming even something as simple as a smile is
Exactly. So you
to-
can't say, "Oh, I'm so proud of you," but have a dead straight face
Yes,
because they're
exactly.
just going to be confused
Yes.
about that. So a practical example of this is if a student comes up to you and they say, "Oh, I passed my test with 50%. I passed my test." Then, like, as a tutor, you might know that they're capable of more, but it's important to say, "Well done, you did work for this. I'm glad that you passed. I'm proud of you." And I guess that's where you can then go back to the goals and set now a goal for something better than that. So the two do go together. If a student is proud of themselves for something, and it is an achievement, but it's maybe not the achievement that you think they could get, it's still important to praise them for that, because you don't want to break down their confidence. You just want to build it up.
Definitely.
So that's a practical example. Do you have any idea how this would apply to a tutor?
Yeah, I definitely think that it builds a relationship firstly between your student and tutor, and I think that's so important to have that foundation, to have that relationship, because they're not going to really believe that you're proud of them if they don't have that relationship with you. And that foundation is so important for everything going forward. For every single lesson going forward, you need to have that small amount of praise and trust between you and the student. And another thing is, it gives the student so much of confidence, like you mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
And I think confidence is what many of our students actually lack. It's not that they have an inability to do well, they just lack the confidence to do better.
Yes.
And we will be able to notice as tutors that, you know what, this is the point where the student is struggling with and they lack a little bit of confidence. So giving them, even if they get 50%, give them that praise, because that's already building their confidence to get better marks.
Exactly.
And yeah, I definitely think those are 2 points that we can actually work on.
Yeah. No, I do think the confidence is really important. Also because one day when they're doing something right, you don't want them to disregard it. It's important for
Acknowledgement.
Yes, self-acknowledgement, and to build yourself up later on in life. If you can give yourself praise in small spaces, then you are able to give yourself praise when you achieve something bigger, or you feed off the small praise to want something more.
Yes.
Without even someone praising you, you can praise yourself and get yourself to that place. But before you can praise yourself, you do need someone like a tutor or a parent or a teacher to give you small little comments or compliments in a positive way.
Yes, definitely.
So yeah, that is 1 minute praisings.